Welcome to episode 206 of the Stretty cast. I am your host, Dale O'Donnell, and I am joined by Brian Murphy and John Fitzgibbon. United lost the Community Shield but continue to make exciting signings ahead of the new Premier League season. Sit back as we take you to the first game of the season and much more. Lads, we didn't really get the result we wanted in the Community Shield. 1-1 after full time and then losing 7-6 on penalties. Performance-wise, I didn't have too many complaints. Thought we went toe-to-toe with City again and showed that we can compete with them at the very least. John, you were at the game. Tell us about your day at Wembley and what you made of what happened on the pitch.
Yeah, it was good to get back doing it after the last trip to Wembley when we beat City. Obviously it's not as big as occasion as an FA Cup final, but it was still nice to get out there and get back and see all faces as well, that we probably haven't seen over the summer. But yeah, the weather was good and there was a good old buzz, especially a good old crowd in the United end as well. There was the few visible empty seats in the City end as usual. But yeah, like it was a good day. Disappointing obviously with the ending, because when we went up 1-0, we really should have seen it out. But yeah, it is what it is. But it's minutes in the tank anyway, and I suppose good preparation for tomorrow night.
Brian, I did mention the result wasn't exactly what we wanted, but could you at least take positives away from what you've seen from United?
During the game, I was thinking, I know we're all saying it's a glorified friendly, and it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but on the day, you still don't want to lose the game, obviously. But I thought we played really well, and just a bit of cutting edge or cutthroat in front of goals and taking chances. We had a couple, probably 2 or 3 really, really clear chances. 1 or 2 maybe that were not as clear cut, but good opportunities to cause trouble to the keeper. Just didn't take them. A lack of sharpness in front of goal. I probably thought we could have been at one stage, and it might sound rose tinted glasses, easily 3 or 4-1 up. I know they hit the post and that, but we were creating chances left, right, and centre. Just couldn't close it out, and we went on then and suffered by going to penalties afterwards, which was very, very annoying to see after a game where I thought we gave a very good account of ourselves, especially first game of the season, just back. Just couldn't get it in the net. Bruno's goal, I know it was offside or disallowed, but wow, what a finish. That's the Bruno we know that can do that kind of thing. So if that's onside on another day, he scores an absolute screamer and job done. But yeah, I was a bit pissed off at the end of it because I thought we could have put him to bed and seen the game out in the 90 minutes and not gone to the dreaded penalties, and had to see a left-legged Johnny Evans attempt to stick it in the net, which didn't exactly go to plan, but is what it is. Now, we can call it a glorified friendly now, but if we had won, I would have celebrated it like a Champions League final. So on we go.
Absolutely. I think the biggest difference that we could take from the FA Cup final and the Community Shield, the previous 2 games against City at Wembley, is in the FA Cup final, we took our chances. We were clinical, and that's how we won the FA Cup. And we didn't do that a lot last season. So I thought there was parts of the game on Saturday at Wembley, I thought there was almost reminiscent to last season where we're not taking our chances and we don't have that clinical goal scorer just yet. But obviously we hope as the season comes together and the players gel and reach peak fitness that we'll see that. John, one of the players I wanted to ask you about, you've seen him up close now, is Amad Diallo. He performed well as well in the semi-final against Coventry at Wembley last season, which you were at. This is a player that Ten Hag has laid out a challenge to this season, and he's a player I think has a big season ahead of him. What did you make of him? I find that he's just someone that whenever he gets on the ball, he excites.
Yeah, I really like Ahmed. I was even at the Newcastle game there. Was it second last game of the season there? It was a midweek game, and he was absolutely outstanding that night as well. And I thought he was good there the weekend. He wasn't as effective as maybe he could have been, but he still had a couple of moments there where he really showed us what he could do. Like, he was very unlucky when he pulled the ball back to Mason Mount. It was just a split. Like, if you actually had a natural striker in that position, that probably would have been a goal. But yeah, no, I like Ahmed. He gives us a lot more balance down the right than a couple of other players. And yeah, Brent. He gives us good balance, but Anthony, like, usually when he beats a man, he just turns around again. Whereas Ahmed, he beats a man, he goes for the throat. I really do like that about him.
Brian, does this raise a question with Rashford if he doesn't start the season brightly, because we've seen in the second half when Garnacho came on the difference in which he made. And of course, the way in which he scored the goal is just an example of what he brings to United in the final third. He makes things happen. Rashford right now and last season is not making things happen. Whereas you see with Ahmad, there's a bit of a bright spark about him right now. Do you think in a few weeks we could have a bit of a dilemma on our hands if Rashford doesn't start this season strongly?
To be honest, Dale, I think we already have that. I think Ahmed's causing Erik ten Hag a little bit of a headache in a situation that we haven't had for a couple of years, because we've been crying out for wingers for a long time, and we've been trying to fit this fella out left wing, fit this fella right wing. This fella hasn't worked out. All of a sudden, Garnacho is Garnacho. Garnacho's a superstar. We all know he's going to be a superstar. You've got Rashford. Jadon Sancho inexplicably is back in the side. Anthony has declared that he's going to be visibly seen with goals and assists. Not quite sure how, but fair enough. And then Ahmed comes onto the scene. Now you've got, what, 5 lads vying for 2 places. It's a bit of a conundrum for Ten Hag, because he's going to have to manage expected game minutes, who's in form. He's going to have to forget about the big name. Marcus Rashford has the reputation, has the big name, but Rashford, for me, hasn't been doing it. And again, go back to the Community Shield final, 2 of those chances fell to him, which I thought he should have put away. And in form, confident Marcus Rashford smashes him in the back of the net every day of the week. He didn't. Amad Diallo, he's a guy who was kind of kept at bay for so long by Ten Hag and held back, and he wasn't really released into the side and given his chances, even though people were crying out for it. When he eventually did, Diallo has that spark about him that you see him with the ball and you think he might create something. You instantly think that he's going to possibly create a chance for someone else, or snap a little shot out of nowhere. He's an exciting player. He adds that little bit of a get off your seat excitement that he could do something, and that's every time he gets the ball. I've grown to accept the fact that I think he might do something all the time. Garnacho, similarly, he's got a very attacking minded, aggressive kind of style of play. Rashford hasn't been doing that, and last season wasn't doing it. He hasn't come back and shown any kind of immediate form that makes you sit up and listen and go, right, look, he's back doing it again. I think Erik ten Hag's going to have some tough decisions coming forward in the next few games, unless Rashford plays and starts doing something. But then you have the question again, Dale. Diallo plays right wing. Most of us think Garnacho is better on the right. Sancho came in hypothetically as a right winger, but we all know he plays a lot on the left for Dortmund and could cover on the left hand side for us. Rashford's on the left. Anthony, unless he goes to left back, which he doesn't seem to be too obliged to do, is going to be looking to get in there. Like, of the 5, who's your starting 2 tomorrow night?
John, I'm going to put that one to you. I was going to ask you who you're going to start tomorrow night on the wing.
To be honest, I would love to just go with Garnacho on the left and Ahmed on the right, and potentially Zirkzee there, unleash him there. Now, I don't probably think he'll start tomorrow night. Maybe it's come a bit too soon for him, especially when he didn't come on as a sub against City. But in terms of the wingers, I would love to see Garnacho and Ahmed. I think they're everything that we need at the moment. They're young, they're hungry, like they're always trying to impress. They impress me a lot, the 2 of them. I think they have massive futures ahead of them.
I think the fact there's a flavour for that this month, that it's quite telling with Rashford, because 2 years ago, if you asked the 3 of us or any United fans ahead of the new season, dropping Rashford, would you consider it? We probably bite your head off and say you're crazy. And I think that shows the bit of a predicament that he's in right now. Now, that said, we'd all love nothing more for him to make us eat our words and start this season strongly, because a Marcus Rashford would really change our position in the table, drastically. We win a lot more football matches. Moving on a little bit, there has been 2 new signings this season, but we're going to talk about the 4. Lenny Yoro, Joshua Zirkzee, Matthias de Ligt, and of course Mazuri. Trying to get my pronunciations right before Brian trips me up. Brian, delightful week for United. What did you make of it?
We said on one of the earlier podcasts when Ineos came in first that we hope to see a change of direction, a change of ethos in the way that this best in class, or whatever, I'm sick of saying best in class, but this new background setup is coming in, that they change what way we operate. The Ed Woodward kind of style of play is gone out of it. Not putting your chest out saying we can do things in the transfer market that anyone else can dream of, which cost us an extra couple of million in every transfer for the last how long. And then all of a sudden, you see these transfers come in. And on paper, Lily Euro, one of the highest rated young centre backs in football, who Real Madrid wanted, we got him. Fee wasn't outlandish. Zirkzee, another talented, young, hungry, creative player, signed for a good fee. Matthias de Ligt and Nusser Mazrui, which again, I can't really give you shit for because I haven't learned to pronounce his name yet. Both of them signed for a combined, including achievable add-ons, combined 60 million euros for the two of them, which, if you pay attention to the Everton fans, is about 40 million euros less than what they wanted for Brentford. Very, very clever business. We've shored up 4 positions that were very, very necessary to do, not for big money in the grand scheme of things. Looks like they're highlighting the right character, the right type of player, the right age profile. If you look at Barada's statement today, or the statement that came out, it's going to be in the matchday program tomorrow. Again, he backed that up and reiterated it. They're looking at the long term. They're planning and they're buying for the long term. It's long term success. It's not like bringing a Jose and try to win something this season and tough shit what happens after that. This looks more like they're shaping a squad that's going to develop and grow together, which for me is very, very exciting. I don't expect the whole thing to come together day one and it to be an immediate success. But if we're sitting here again in maybe 2 seasons' time and they've done the same in the next few transfer windows, we could be in for a treat for a squad that's been set up with a good plan, good age profile that'll develop together, and the right type of transfer attitude going into the market. So I'm very, very happy. I know a lot of people were bitching and moaning, saying we've only signed 2 players, and all of a sudden, bang, double signing same day, 15 minutes later. We've now signed 4 players, 3 of which highly rated. The right back / left can play left back. Can't say no whole pile about him, but again, not a big fee. So look, if it goes tits up, not to worry. If it's a success, brilliant. It's 4 good signings, and it's a good start to Ineos's tenure in the transfer market. It's starting to change the landscape around what other clubs can do to us. And you saw when we went in for Brentford, Everton were trying to put their foot down and stamp down and say, no, if United are coming in, we're paying that much for him. And we just said, yeah, grand, no bother, fucking keep him. We'll go and buy these lads. So it's a good change to see.
And you know, another positive I find about it all is for the first time in a long time, we've actually prioritised the defence in a transfer window. Because you see there, even going back to the Van Gaal days, we were signing Di Maria, Falcao, all these attackers, and it was defenders we were actually badly needing at the time. But people think, oh, look, we'll sign all these great attackers, they'll make us good again. But as Alex Ferguson said, like, good attackers win you games, good defence wins you league. It's just great to see us actually addressing the major problems we had last season were in the defence. You go back to that Chelsea game, we played some top football going forward that day, and then in 92 minutes we were up 3-2, and next thing 96 minutes we're down 4-3, and it was just awful defending is what that was. And it's just great that we've actually signed a couple of lads now in the back line rather than just going gung-ho again for these big name forwards for massive money.
It's like what they say, the best teams are built from the back. And like you say, you brought in new managers like Louis van Gaal, and all of a sudden you're throwing in these signings like Falcao with Di Maria, when in true defense is where you need to make your lay your foundations even. Of course, 2 of those 4 new signings are centre backs. Then Ioro, who we won't see for the best part of 3 months due to a metatarsal injury. But Brian de Ligt comes in, a 25-year-old who has played at only Ajax, Juventus, Bayern Munich, a wealth of experience there. But some people are arguing, I think some pundits in England that don't watch a lot of foreign football are suggesting that he's lost his way and that this guy is past it. What are your thoughts on the signing?
I think you might be referring to, was it Paul Scholes who came out and made some kind of cutting comments towards him? And you look at these comments, and one of the throwaway comments people make, oh, Bayern signed Erik Dyer and is keeping him out of the side. And then you check the stats of the 15 games, I think since Christmas, de Ligt was his centre-back partner for 14 of the 15. You fucking idiots. Like, I know it's easy to make these comments and try and take the piss and write these lads off, but like, at least have some semblance of realism in what you're saying. De Ligt, hands up, gospel honest truth. When he left Ajax, when he was at Ajax, I was like, yeah, this guy looks the absolute bollocks. He left. I don't think set the world alight. Maybe. I kind of thought to myself, maybe he's not going to realize his potential. But again, he went to Juventus, massive team. Off to Munich, again, massive team. You'd see the response. Now, again, I've always said I don't watch a whole pile of European football, so it's hard for me to give a proper in-depth comment on someone. But if you judge the fans of the team you've bought a player off of, the outrage from Bayern fans, left, right, and centre, including petitions of 60, 70,000 fans asking for him not to be sold. Bayern's English account, one of their main fan accounts, English fan accounts on Twitter, constantly talking about how they've sold their best centre back and they're raging they didn't want him to go. It sounds like we've got a good signing from Bayern that they didn't really want to let leave. Again, he only turned 25 last week. Look at him at 17 with Ajax. He was unbelievable leadership qualities, attitude, like phenomenal at that age. He carried that through so far. And now we're signing a lad at 25 who he's probably maybe a year shy of his prime, 2 years shy of his prime as a centre back, kind of like 27 onwards when they really hit their full power strength. I think it's a great signing if it works out. It looks value for money. It looks like a clever signing. He wanted to come. He stated today actually that he signed terms with us in June, and he was literally sitting there waiting all along for this drawn-out process to happen. So he really wanted to come to us. Again, another change in the scenery around transfers. We're not going out there throwing a 250,000 contract at someone, trying to get him from going to someone else just to come to us for the big money. We're going out signing players that really want to come to Manchester United, which is fantastic. Stark contrast to them fuckers down in Merseyside who got Zooby Doo, where are you? Getting shafted and turned down by the mountains. So Arne Slot's drawing power, zero. Erik ten Hag's drawing power, massive. Ball is best and no one likes a copy.
I find it exciting that Ten Hag, it's like him reuniting with the Lit, and we talk about some of the Lit's best football happening at Ajax. Well, that's where he was playing maybe the brand of football that was most comfortable to him. So I think what I want to see is we seen Onana come in last season, but I'd argue that we didn't play a particular way that would suit a goalkeeper like Onana. So we were still we didn't have play with a high line and whatnot. So what I want to see is by bringing in these players, all well and good, can we now play a way that actually suits them? I'm sick of hearing about, oh, we're better in this system or how Ten Hag played at Ajax. Let's fucking see it. No, I want to see it now this season.
And just on what you're saying there, one of the league's comments was, I played my best football under Erik ten Hag. I can't wait to link up with him again and to play under him again and for him to bring the best out of me. And like that gives you massive confidence straight away that he's coming in to a manager who he implicitly trusts, absolutely believes that he's going to play his best football under this guy, has done it before. They have a great relationship from previous. That's a brilliant way to join a football club. It's not some new guy coming from Mexico with no word of English that we've never heard of, has no links to anyone. This lad is coming into a side where might not know his teammates, but fully trusts his manager and will run through a brick wall for him. It's a great attitude to start off with, and backed on the fact that he really wanted to come to United. It could be a very, very shrewd signing. Time will tell.
Before we move on to the Fulham game, John, I wanted to ask your thoughts on Harry Maguire. We've been talking about new additions to the defence. What do you make of Harry Maguire's position this season? The report suggests that he still believes he can be an important figure in the squad.
Yeah, it is a tricky one, really. I mean, he wasn't actually too bad last season. He came in there at certain stages and he actually did a good job, but I'm not a massive fan of him myself, and I do think that we badly needed to upgrade the centre-back pairing this year. Now, sometimes he's been in an unsteady centre-back partnership as well, which probably hasn't helped him either, and if he had someone beside him that kind of made up for his weaknesses, it wouldn't be too bad, I suppose. But I think he's going to struggle there to hold down a full-time position this year. But look, we'll be in the Europa League this year. There's going to be a lot of rotation. Obviously, Lenny Yoro is out for a couple of months, so for the first half of the season, you could see him playing a big role yet. because as I said, games will be coming thick and fast, and we will have to be rotating.
You can also imagine if we were had a narrow lead late on in the game and facing an aerial bombardment with DeLitt and Harry Maguire at centre back, there wouldn't be many centre forwards getting on the end of headers. So it could come to a tactical advantage at some point as well. I do think, and I'm happy that Maguire is staying, because I do think he was one of our most important players last season when fit. And there's been talk as well about Victor Lindelof, and he is the one that I think that United should have been making even more attempts to push out the door this summer.
It's actually a name I wanted to raise with you. What the fuck is Victor Lindelof actually doing at the moment? Because we're signing centre backs. We have centre backs that are ahead of him. So we now have Linny Euro, Matthias de Ligt, Harry Maguire, Sandro Martinez, even Johnny Evans at a stretch. What? Like, why is Lindelof still at the club? How, unless his wages are astronomical, how have we not shifted him this window? Because he's absolutely surplus to requirements. And how is he not himself for his own career, his own football? How has he not gone to the club and said, look, obviously it's time for me to go. I've fucking no chance of getting near this side unless we have a catastrophic injury crisis again. I'm better off going off to some team, wherever, enjoying my life playing football week in, week out. Because no harm to Victor Lindelof. He might not be Man United quality. Still a half-decent centre-back. Seems to have a good kind of a personality and good character, outside from the sparkly dresses and the leather pants and that kind of stuff, which is, look, it is what it is. He might identify as a lamppost or something, but I can't understand how he's still there. I really can't. So it's a strange one.
Well, the other thing is you mentioned astronomical wages. There's probably a realization that elsewhere in Europe he wouldn't get that money. So like his family may be settled in Manchester, he's under contract, and this falls back to the limbo that we're under with other players in the contracts from the previous regime. United signed up players on long-term deals on money that they wouldn't get anywhere else, and that's why I think the job that Jim Radcliffe and co are doing this summer, it's going to take a lot longer than 1 year. They're ripping up trees. They got to plant new ones, and it's going to take time with some of those contracts that have been agreed in the past.
Another kind of case in point for the same topic. Anthony Martial is at home playing the Xbox currently. Haven't seen a link to a single club anywhere. De Gea, granted, would have come off massive wages. There was speculation he wasn't going to a club because he couldn't get the money he wanted and stuff, but he just came straight out and said he just needed a break for a year and he just wasn't in it. His head wasn't right. He wanted to find a place where he felt happy and reignited his passion. Happy days. Martial's coming off a contract. He was on massive money. He's after coming off massive money and now finds himself in a situation where even when we tried to shift him, the best we did was a bad loan, which didn't work out. Like, he's not going to find a club going to pay him a semblance of what he was on at us. You'd imagine he's going to be sitting there going, shit, what do I do next? And I haven't seen, like, you'd expect a player with his kind of, I suppose, not reputation, because he's not reputation for being a phenomenal player by any means, but he has a big profile and he's a well-known name, and that you'd expect links and clubs to be sniffing around and this player's talking with Anthony Martial and blah blah. Haven't heard a single thing about him since. It's very similar to Jesse Lingard, who went off to fucking Korea, and I don't know if he joined the army or is he doing K-pop or what's he at. Haven't heard a word from him since he went to Korea, unless Martial's going to head over and do a couple of TikToks with Jesse in Korea, but haven't heard a word of him all summer. So Lindelof could be kind of a similar mold where he knows he's fucked after he leaves us. He knows he's not going to get anything near that money. He knows his next step is going to be very well down. Maybe he's just going to sit it, ride out the storm and sit back and say, look, collect my money while I can get it and make the most of it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brian, completely. I think Victor Lindelof is definitely in that kind of bracket that Anthony Martial was in. Like, it's kind of at the club for years, didn't really achieve massive kind of achievements in their own careers or with the club. And I think it would actually be good for Victor Lindelof as well, for his own career, to actually move on. Like, he's coming to the latter stages of his career. He's coming to the end of his 20s and maybe early 30s. But
what about his bank account, John? Is it good for his bank account?
Yeah, he'll probably be taking a hit in the old wages, all right, if he moves on. But for his own aspirations and ambitions, I suppose it'd be probably better off for him now to move on, because especially with the new signings we've made as well, I I just don't see where he fits in there this season.
He's not going to be buying the latest Gucci leather chaps if he's playing with fucking Yeovil. So he better cling on for dear life at United, because all them sparkly dresses, unless he's a Primark Essentials kind of girl, they're not going to come cheap. So stick it out, Victor. Keep that money coming in and keep that old-fashioned sense up.
So tell me, fuckers, how excited are you for the first game of the season? Because when we're finished this segment, we're going to be listening to Brian and John on their travels to Old Trafford for United and Fulham as we kick off the new Premier League campaign. So, Brian, lead us in. How excited are you for the new campaign?
Very excited for a new campaign. Very excited to get back, especially to Manchester, because it's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen all those faces and all the local lads, all the Manchester lads and ladies that we know and love, that we meet so often going to games and at home, away, Europe. You get to know so many people. It's brilliant. But this one's kind of got a twist to it, because I usually book my own flights for everything. Never anyone else books flights for me for anything. I book my own travel, my own trains, my own hotels. This one, I was busy at work, so Fitzy, thank God, booked the old flights for us. I jumped on and booked a hotel, and John booked a hotel. Grand. So conversation went on. Have you a hotel booked? I said, I have. Where'd you book? Sashes, obviously. I've booked a hotel as well. I said, oh yeah, where is it? Oh, it's out near the ground somewhere. It'll be handy after the game. I said, oh yeah, sure, grand. Look, we'll leave him there. We'll decide towards closer to the time and see what happens. 8:36 a.m. this morning, the two of us got an email to say free cancellation is up. So John has a hotel close to the ground, and Brian is going to Sashes. We're now splitting up, staying in our respective hotels. Fitz did not cancel his hotel to come to Sashes with me, which he has done on more occasions than I can count on one hand. And I'm all alone in my beautiful Sashes Spa Resort on Tib Street, reunited with my palace. And unless Molly May takes me up on my offer of a curry on Twitter, I will be sleeping sound inside in that beautiful Mecca metropolis, gorgeous spot. People, if you haven't been there, get in there, of Sashes, as Mr. Fitz sleeps in his little pad down near the ground, and we'll catch up again heading back home. But very excited to be heading over. Very much looking forward to getting back to the pubs around Manchester for some pre-drinks. And it's that beautiful feeling. The first game of the season always has that lovely element of, we haven't made shit of Everton yet. So we're still in a position where, yeah, good push now for the title. Everything's possible. Clean slate. All the players have a fresh start. Give us probably 8 or 9 games before depression kicks in and we start getting the belt of realism and going, for fuck's sake, not this again. But very happy to go and very much looking forward to hopefully a good start against Fulham, who better keep their fucking hands off Scott McTominay.
John, how are you feeling ahead of the game? Are we going to get 3 points, start the season on a high?
I'm a blind optimist the best of times, but yeah, I'm confident we'll start off at Old Trafford, big crowd. Yeah, very confident we'll get the 3 points there tomorrow, and I think it's just important just to set the foundation. Like, we're going away to Brighton and then obviously Liverpool at home, and then you've the international break. So you really want to be starting the season off with 3 points there tomorrow night. It takes massive pressure off going into that Brighton game next week. Because I mean, if Fulham were to pull off, I mean, Fulham did actually beat us at Old Trafford last season as well. So we can't take them easy by any means, and anything can happen on that opening day of the season, as we've seen in many other seasons through the years, even under Sir Alex Ferguson. So yeah, hoping now. I'm looking forward to the game now. It will be great to get back to Manchester again after a couple of months. So hopefully now everything goes to plan and there's no injuries and we can just get a couple of goals into us and get a bit of confidence into the camp and ready to go for the season.
Remember that first game of the season, Fitz? What is it? Probably 5 years ago now. We played Chelsea opening day. Two of us walked in going, nah, tough game now. Tough start to the season. Chelsea, big game. Battered them off the pitch. Absolutely fucking blew them away. And I can remember the two of us walking up Sir Matt Busby way, looking at each other going, geez, we're going to win the league this year, lad. We're going to fucking win the league. That's some start. We're unbelievable. Chelsea's a big side. We're after playing them off the park. We are back. I'd say 3 weeks later, we were like, oh my fucking Jesus Christ, what were we thinking saying that day?
Yeah, sure. I remember that. We actually followed that brilliant performance up. Was it a 1-1 draw away to Wolves on the following Monday night, and then we lost at home to Crystal Palace before the international break. So it wasn't long before we were crashing back down to earth, let's say.
Reality straight
Well,
away.
lads, I hope there's no crashing back down to earth or anything of the sorts this weekend or on Friday when you both take your travels. The next time you do hear from the lads in the next segment, we'll be at the game. Thanks for listening to the start, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the episode.
On the way to the airport with Mr. John Fitzgibbon, heading to the beautiful city of Manchester for the opening game of the season, and the Reds are back in action. It's always nice to get back to football again. I know the Community Shield last week, but getting back to Old Trafford is always a little bit special, especially the first game of the season when there's no negativity setting in just yet. We haven't made a bollocks of everything, and we're all possibly thinking maybe we could actually win the league this season. Mr. Fitzgibbon, how are we feeling ahead of the game?
Yeah, feeling confident that we'll get the 3 points today. Seen plenty of positives against City there last week, and hopefully now we can, with the minutes in the legs for this week now, we'll be a bit more sharper in front of goal and can hopefully put away Fulham fairly early.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest complaints last season was the lack of just putting games to bed, and games where we dominated for large periods and then we ended up shitting tugs and going down 1-0 out of nowhere, or games where we just could have seen out a result and just couldn't get it over the line. So I suppose it's one of the main things we're looking for this season, is a big change in the style of play, a lot more aggressive, a bit more cohesion amongst the team. It'll take a while, of course, for new signings to settle in and gel with their teammates and get used to each other and whatnot, but it's optimistic looking that we've identified some key positions, and for a change bringing in centre backs, or bringing in defenders, in general, and strengthening defence, like you said on the podcast last night or the other night. It's important that they actually finally have said, look, we need to sort this back line out. And then again, you still have Mr. Harry Maguire coming on, who's capable of putting himself in with a shout for a place in the side, so there's a bit of competition there still, and it's not like guaranteed that Matthias de Ligt just walks into the team and Lenny Yoro struts into the team when he comes back from that dirty injury he has. Again, I suppose, look, we've always said competition breeds excellence, and the more competition we can have for places and the more quality players in different positions around the field, it can only bode well for our fortunes on the pitch. But yeah, hopefully tonight now, Old Trafford under the lights, even though it can be a pain in the arse for us travelling from Ireland for night games, you always have to stay over in the hotel and you can't manage to get back after it. It's always a bit of an atmosphere and a bit of a buzz. Looking forward to our new season ticket section. We're after moving into W210, the new safe standing section. What do you reckon to that? We're going to be beside TRA, and that should make for a really good section across the whole Stretford End, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a welcome addition to the Stretford End. The executive section's obviously gone for this season, which everyone has been calling for many years, so they've finally done it, and I think it will definitely have a greater impact on the atmosphere, as you have a lot of hardcore Reds all going across the one stand instead of being scattered around the stadium to accommodate the executive ones who are inside eating their prawn sandwiches and don't really have a massive interest in the match or making noise. So yeah, it will be great to have like-minded Reds all around us, and hope and sure now for the opening game everyone is going to be buzzing to get back, and it's going to be fairly loud.
And it should, if it goes according to plan, you'd imagine having TRA and this inverted commas safe standing atmosphere section side by side should really rub off on each other, and it should create a good bit of noise and a good level of atmosphere in that whole lower section of Stretford End, really. So hopefully that kicks into effect straight away. But I'm looking forward to seeing our new seats. It's a section I always enjoyed most when I was in TRA, that W210 area. So that should be something interesting as well. But heading from Manchester, the weather looks nice. It's not pissing rain for a change. Things should be good. It's nice to get back and get a game in with a pair of shorts on rather than getting on with the big coat weather. So hopefully tonight is the start of things to come. Not expecting miracles by any means. Fulham are not exactly a shit side. They're not dirt. They're just, we should be beating them. But at the same time, they're not going to roll over and die either for us. So go on, we'll have our predictions. What do you reckon?
I think it could be KG, but I think we'll win 2-0.
I'm going to put my head on the line and say we're going to go out, score early, and turn them over 3-0. Scott McTominay off the bench if he doesn't start. And I hope, amongst hope, that this is not a swan song goodbye for Mr. Scott tonight, because my emotions can't handle that kind of stuff. Right, we'll talk to you after the game. Oh, Jesus above in heaven. I'm back in my most familiar place. A visit to Terminal 3, Manchester Airport. KFC has been consumed. A drastic hangover has set in. But the only thing keeping me alive and keeping me buoyant is we got off to a winning start. Mightn't have been overly impressive, although I thought we were consistently strong throughout the night. We just didn't capitalise and make it count. Could have had more. But for Harry Maguire, with a bit of last ditch 2v1 saving our arse, could have been different. But John, 1-0. Safe standing section was absolutely buzzing. TRA was on fire. Atmosphere overall was electric. And we got a Joshua Zirkzee off the bench. Little deft half volley or on the volley. I still haven't watched the goal back. Thought McTominay scored it actually when it went in first, but I was quickly informed it was not. Mr. Zirkzee scores his debut. It wasn't all roses, but definitely nothing to be disappointed in too much. What do you think?
Yeah, look, the opening game of the season is always a tricky one. Players are just coming back to full fitness, and obviously with the Euros and the Copa America this summer, there was players coming back even later, so there was players on the bench today like Garnacho and them that would probably start if they had the full pre-season behind them. So yeah, it was interesting enough now to see the way we performed there. Like it was tough, but we got the winner in the end, and I suppose that's all that matters.
A noticeable difference in the press. Far more inclined to press the opposition in their half, and far more inclined to press them high up, forcing errors, which we did multiple times, turned the ball over a lot, didn't punish them when we probably should have. But I think one of the things that stood out to me, we seem to lack the presence of an out-and-out striker. When we got the ball, even though last season we would have been far more pedestrian and far more willing to just pass it over and back for the sake of passing over and back, last night we were getting the ball in good positions. We were just missing that striker pulling the defenders apart, splitting the two centre halves and offering a bit of movement in the middle, which we can obviously expect that to come back when Hyland comes back. Zirkzee, I'm still not 1,000,000% sure what kind of player he is, because obviously it's a new addition and he rates himself as a 9.5. Looks like a nice link-up player and very positive, but don't know if he's going to be the kind of fella that pulls defenders aside, which he could be. He's an absolute fucking unit of a man. Could be playing NFL. He's a fucking monster. But the lack of the striker, I thought it just caused us a bit of difficulty in the build-up. But Garnacho off the bench, he gets his assist. Could have had a goal, depending what side of the coin you're on. Some people think Rashford fucked up the pass. Some people think Garnacho fucked up the shot. Maybe it's a bit of both. Look, who are we to say? But 3 points is 3 points. Nice to be back in the Stretford End, and nice to be back in Manchester. Nice to see a couple of familiar faces and be back amongst it again.
Oh, brilliant, yeah. There was a lot of recognisable faces in the Stretford End last night, and we were all kind of in the one section as well, which was great. Same concourse, having a couple of pints before the game, a bit of a chat, catching up on what we were all up to over the summer. And then, of course, back to business, back to watching United and talking about what we thought the match would be. And yeah, look, the atmosphere was great. The weather was very good. It was just great to be back.
A friend of ours, James Hallis, was stood beside us last night. James did a 6-hour drive through traffic from Surrey. And at one stage, about the 80th minute, I said, James, how long is it going to take you to get back down again? Probably 3.5, maybe 4. So I said, you've done a 10-hour return trip driving to watch us struggle to a 0-0 draw against Fulham. And not very long, I'm talking seconds afterwards, just as he looked at me with the death stare, that ball went in the back of the net, and that unbridled love and sheer emotion of a United goal late on erupted across the ground. Looked at me, he was like, yeah, that makes it worth it. And it does. That's what it's all about. Flying over from here or driving up from the arsehole of the UK, that one goal late on turns what could be a very drab trip into a very, very memorable one. So nothing better than a late winner on the open day of the season. Minutes in the tank is something you mentioned. A couple of players still to come back and find full fitness, but one fella that seems to look a bit sharper. He's been on the uni slim over the summer, Mr. Casemiro. Impressive enough to see how trim he is, given he was getting that chubby Miro nickname there for a while, and he looked like he was trudging around. Definitely in shape and looks a bit more intent on making his mark this season, or potentially keeping his place.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm shocked he's still with us. I thought he was a dead cert to leave us over the summer. I thought Saudi was calling and he would be probably the first name out of the club, especially after not playing in the FA Cup final, and obviously there was rumours around his kind of involvement. So in the FA Cup final, like, there was people saying, was he left out of the team that day, and he didn't take part because of that. But yeah, no, I have to say, against City last week, no, he held his own, he was solid, and he put in a decent performance again last night. As you said, he's looking trim, and obviously if he can stay injury free and keep his run of games going, don't get any silly sendings off, maybe he could have a big part to play for us this year, because you don't become a bad player overnight, and that's the way it did appear for us last year. It just came out of nowhere, like, Jesus, this is one of the worst declines I've ever seen in the space of a couple of months. But maybe, look, it could have been just injuries. They were just kind of catching up with him. He's a lot of mileage on the clock, but look, hopefully, for our own sake, because our midfield is fairly light, hopefully we can have him fully fit and firing, and hopefully add maybe one more signing to the midfield before the end of the transfer window. So if we do that, we could be fairly solid for the season, hopefully.
The name on everyone's lips incoming is Emmanuel Ugarte from PSG. Do you know much about him?
I've seen him play a couple of games for PSG, but I'd be lying if I said I knew loads about him. But in the few games I have seen him, he looks like he's got a bit of bite about him. At the end of the day, he's a South American lad as well. We know they're fiery, and I'm sure if he was in midfield with Casemiro, there wouldn't be too many fellas getting through him too lightly, let's say that.
Did you see Lisandro Martinez talking to Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports after the game, when Carragher stood beside him, and there was a noticeable, very, very close height comparison between the two of them after Jamie Carragher labelled him as being too small for the Premier League? Martinez answered it brilliantly, I thought. I might not be tall, but I will win. In the duels, personality, effort. Lisandro Martinez, if we can keep him fit, he is a game changer in centre half, isn't he?
Yeah, he's by far, I think he's our most influential player on the pitch. You see what happened last year when he came out of the team, and even towards the latter end of the season before, when he got injured against Seville, everything just went to absolute shit after that. And to have him back is unbelievable. Even like we had him back for only the last 2 or 3 games of last season, and we ended up finishing strongly in the Premier League, and we won the FA Cup. And I honestly think that his involvement was a massive factor in that.
Yeah, he's absolutely unreal. And obviously, outside of the defensive part of things and how tenacious he is and how aggressive he is, he's ball splitting. He plays these midfield splitting passes through, and very much inclined to build our attack straight with him. Very fast, get it forward very fast with very good intent. Keeping him fit will be key. Yeah, not a whole point more to talk about really. I suppose the standard conversations these days is Marcus Rashford playing well or not? Do we have a striker? How's the striker playing? Who's going to start in the wings? I think it's going to take a couple of weeks to see how this side settles down. A couple of months maybe. But definitely a few weeks to see the likes of Zirkzee come in, and that new boy Mazraoui in the backs. very impressed with him last night. Thought he was, well, I know it's only the first case sample of his involvement in the United team, but 90 minutes under his belt and looked very, very capable and comfortable in the side, both going forward and defensively.
Yeah, you put it well there. There was a good mix of both defensive and attacking kind of side out of him there last night. He actually looks quite good at carrying the ball forward as well. Tidy in possession, played a couple of lovely little passes in between opposition players as well. Looks very good progressively going forward, which is something we've needed in that right back position for a long time, because look, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he was very good at putting in sliding tackles and making recovery, defending, but just going forward, that final ball out of him, it was just so poor. And do you know, if a ball broke him at the edge of the box, you knew he'd never do anything with it. Whereas this guy, I think if a ball broke him at the edge of the box, I reckon he looks like a bit of a powerful man. Like, I'd say he wouldn't be long putting his foot through it.
One of the strangest things that happened last night, Erik ten Hag decided to make a double substitution as we were going. That was before the goal, wasn't it? We were going for the winner. And the double substitution was Matthijs de Ligt and Johnny Evans. And I looked at you and said, I know ball is best. I know I love Erik ten Hag. What in the fuck is wrong with this fella? And why is he bringing on two centre halves? One being Johnny Evans when we're looking for a goal. Now, far from me to slate Erik ten Hag's substitutions. It worked out, we scored and we won. De Ligt, I can understand, giving him his moment at Old Trafford, first game of the season. What the fuck was Johnny Evans coming on for? Was there an injury, or was it just... did he just lose the plot?
Yeah, I don't really know too much about that one. It was a bit strange, but yeah, in fairness, he didn't do a whole pile wrong when he came on, thank God. And it was great to see the crowd getting behind him, even when he was warming up early in the first half, especially after his penalty miss there last week. I mean, he's well respected in the fan base, and it was just good to see the fans get behind him. And look, whether he's good enough or not to still be at this level, I don't think so, but while he's at the club, I suppose we'll just have to support him. And in fairness, anytime he does play, he doesn't really do a whole pile wrong. I mean, he played away against City and everything there last year, and you know, he did hold his own. But yeah, it was a strange double sub, to be fair. It was a bit of madness from the Dutchman, as we'd say, but look, we got the 3 points and balled his best, as you say.
Speaking of Dutchmen, Rudy van Nistelrooy. That was a nice moment, seeing him come out last night and the crowd giving him his plaudits and singing that song, which he very much appreciated. You saw him giving a wave to the crowd and acknowledging the song. What a guy. I mean, I'm a married man, but Ruud van Nistelrooy is keeping himself well, John. This boy is looking trim and fit. What a sexy bastard. He's strutting out there with an aura emanating off him. If any man can get our strikers firing, it may not have been Benny McCarthy, but if they won't do it for Ruud, I give up.
Yeah, Ruud, I mean, words can't describe how much I love that guy. Childhood hero of mine, and I'm sure for many of you listening, he's just an absolute legend, and it can only be a massive positive for all the attackers to have such a legend like Ruud there, who was so good at scoring goals for the club, to have him behind the scenes and seeing him every day in training. And it was actually funny at the end of the match, because we were all chanting his name and he actually started pointing at the players to start chanting about the players instead of him. I just found that funny, like, but it's brilliant to see Ruud back at Old Trafford. He got a great reception and he deserved it, and hopefully, like, there's good vibes at the club now at the moment, especially with Ruud back, a couple of new signings that have started well, and hopefully this can be the start of just something special, hopefully.
It is only a small thing, but it does show the kind of fella that he is, that rather than milking the reception and milking the chanting, his instant thing was to point to the players and give them the props for it. He's just an all-round class dude. Right, folks, we are nearly home. Tired legs, rough heads, bank account is after taking a battering again. It's been a pleasure having you all listening and on board with the Strettycast. If you want to follow me on Twitter, if you're really sadistic enough, it's at DayTrippingRed. John, if they're going to catch you on Twitter,
at United Fitzy for your troubles. I don't put up as much as this man beside me, but you might find something interesting along the way, maybe.
It's quality, not quantity, on the fit side. Folks, if you enjoyed the episode, give the podcast a like, subscribe, 5-star review. And if you don't subscribe to this podcast, I'm going to force you. No, I'm not actually going to be mean this week because it's the first game back after the season. Just don't be a wanker and subscribe to the podcast. Simple as that. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Brilliant.
Thanks, lads.